Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm a former Boeing 737 pilot, and today we'll have the very first look into iniBuilds' brand new London Stansted airport. This is an airport that I've flown into a lot in real life, so I tend to say that I am fairly familiar with it. We're currently on the final approach for runway 04, and we'll have a look into a little bit of this airport. So, nice little early morning arrival that I've chosen over here because the lighting in Stansted is quite spectacular in the real life, and I want to see how iniBuilds are going to do that. So, it is about time to take the autopilot off.
Minimums.
Continue. And as always in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you take the autopilot off, you start drifting a little bit, but that is fine.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
And welcome to Stansted. Okay, we've got the speed back up, thrust reverse normal. We're going to take the second exit today. We're coming from the EU, so we are going to park within the 60s. Manual brakes. And here we are. So, Stansted Airport. The first thing you're going to notice is that there are no taxiway edge lights, and that is actually correct according to the real airport. So, this is actually quite correct the way it is. We are going to vacate the runway now. We'll turn the first left on the hotel, and then we'll taxi us down 6-2 on the left. We are clear on the right hand side, and as said, the taxiway edges look a little rough, but that is exactly what the real Stansted looks like. What's a little bit surprising here is we got those lights kinda like all over the place. In real life they are placed nicely on the center line, which means that whenever you taxi over them, you're gonna hear those nose wheel thumps. So yes, Stansted is one of these airports. Okay, runway is vacated. We are now approaching the holding point area for runway 22, which is where you'll probably spend the most of your time flying in a Stansted. So they are just about introducing ACDM at this airport, and while they don't have it yet, at least they didn't have it by the time I last flew there before I quit my old company, you could have easily like 8 aircraft at the holding points here. You've got Romeo and Sierra, and this is what it normally looks like. So what I'm kinda missing a little bit over here is those stop bars that you always have in Stansted. They're really active with the stop bars, so that's something that I would kinda hope for to see in a future update. But as you can see, the texturing of the airport itself is pretty good, and as we can see, we've actually got we've actually just got that feeling of the airport. Even though I need to say the taxiways are a little bit clean, in real life things are a little bit more diversified on the taxiway surfaces. So there's been a lot of repairs done at the airport, and that really shows at the real London Stansted. Now, in the sim obviously, I can totally understand that they may not color every single piece of taxiway, but overall, it still looks quite good. Now, what's a little bit of a thing there in Stansted is that you always have those construction sites everywhere. What they really like to do at the real Stansted is to put steel plates on the ground if there is any sort of damage, so that when aircraft taxi over that kind of damage, those steel plates really make a real loud thump. Now that would be nice if that was simulated, however, it isn't, and honestly, who can blame them for that? Those taxiways over here, I know a couple of you will say like, well, that looks strange, and indeed it does, but that is exactly what it looks like at the real Stansted airport. We're now coming up to the 60s over here, which is where we're gonna park, and that leads us to have a very quick look into the parking area over here. So over here you normally have aircraft which are, well, parked for a more extensive period of time, and over here then you have those aircraft which are normally in actual service. By the way, my apologies for my taxi, I know things could be a little bit smoother. Okay then, let's change over to the captain's seat, because the captain is actually the one who is supposed to taxi the aircraft. So, let's get to the interesting part. What you'll notice in a lot of parts of Stansted is that they simply don't have jetways. And that is indeed what it looks like in real life, because, well, Stansted is mostly a Ryanair and Jet2 airport, and Ryanair for sure tries to avoid jetways as much as possible, because they want to use both exits of the aircraft to expedite the boarding and the deboarding procedures. So, we are now approaching our parking stands, and let's take 62 on the right, which is the one over here. And the gates in Stansted are a little bit interesting. As you can see, we've got 62 left, then we've got 62 right, and then you've got a line in the middle. Normally, aircraft park on the left and right stands, and only heavy aircraft would park on the center stands. Because like that, they can put two different aircraft on the same stand, like here. You can have one here, you can have one here. But if one is parking in the middle, the other two are blocked. Okay, let's park it right over here. Give me that parking brake. 2 blue, 1 red, engines dead. Okay. So this is what a standard taxi-in at Stansted looks like. Now how about we jump out of the cockpit and have a quick look around the remaining part of the airport. And this is the overview of Stansted over here, of the parking area. I turned the lights up a little bit because now let's have a look into some of the details that we can find. What you'll find at most of the parking stands over here is that you have 3 taxi lines. You've got the east lane, the middle lane, and then you've got the west lane. And you can see that some of those are limited in terms of the wingspan they can take. Now, if you're taxiing on the taxi lanes over here, you can fit an airplane on the east and one on the west line, and they will have only a couple meters of wingtip clearance, but it works kinda well. So, if you really want to challenge parking, then this is the stand I recommend to go to, and that is Juliet 45 right. Now, as you can see, quite an interesting parking going in there from the main taxiway, because you have all those light poles over here, and the really interesting stuff that you can see over here is how far forward you're parking, because this is literally what it looks like when you are parking over there, and it almost looks like you're running into those staircases. And now in the real Stansted, they would also have all kind of equipment over here. Now, they don't have that in the add-on, because obviously that would be very, very performance intensive, and honestly, simply no developer does. So, that's that. Okay, let's head over to another part and let's have a look into the terminal interiors. Now, I'm just going to do the quick and dirty way over here. Let's go back to the 60s, because this is the way that I walked a lot in real life, especially when I flew over to Stansted for our recurrent simulator training. And this is what it looks like in the iniBuilds London Stansted Airport. Now, loads of seats, and basically the typical detail we're used to from iniBuilds. Now, this one I can actually give a little bit of personal judgment on how good that actually is. And I have to say that most of the stuff that is placed somewhere is actually quite accurate. However, what's a little bit not so accurate is the coloring of all the white walls that we can find inside over here. However, the placing of all those bars and cafes is quite right, and this is actually where you would spend your time prior to departing on those typical Ryanair European flights. Now let's go ahead a little bit and have a very quick look downstairs. This is the waiting areas for the outmost stands over here. As you can see, typical Ryanair low-cost style. Now, let's quickly head back up and head over to the main parts of the terminal. So this is where you would walk along, and then you come out at those staircases over here. You're going down the stairs, and I have to say, they modeled this really well. So this is pretty much exactly what it looks like in the real Stansted. Now, currently we are kind of walking the wrong way, so on the left side over here you would go up, and on the other side you would go down. Now, nice little meeting over here. So this is the side where you would actually go down. And look at that, they actually got the direction of the passengers right. On the left side there, you can see everybody going up. On the right side here, you can see everybody going down. That is pretty cool. Okay, anyway. You walk along the gate over here and walk along over here. Unfortunately, this is kind of where the scenery ends. So normally from here you would get into the customs area and the baggage claim area. Now, if we just about go a little bit ahead over here, it kind of leads you up the stairs, as we can see over here. I don't know why these are not connected, because that would be really nice. But basically you end up over here, which is the British border control. And then, well, you can see how large of an area this is. And you'd have to go in all the way over here. Now, we can actually find some of the areas. Very nice. So you're coming up over here. Then you go into this direction. Normally there would be some signs over here for welcome to the UK border. Pretty much like the sign we have over here. So you would see that all the way around. Make your way through this. Say hello to the customs officer. Or rather to the border control. And then you end up in this little room over here. Now this is your baggage reclaim area. There's also money exchange somewhere over here. But never use the money exchange directly in the arrival hall. That is gonna end up expensive. And hello there. That guy doesn't seem particularly happy. Okay, so when you're done over there, you walk along this way, and unfortunately the scenery kinda ends over here. Because normally you would have your passage this way around, and then you end up in the terminal landside area. So this is where you would normally come out. And then here you are. So there would be loads of shops over here. Actually, right in that one over here, you would get some really good coffee. And then finally you can get out pretty much anywhere over here. Obviously, they got their tickets to London. And then finally we would get out over here. Okay, so this is the landside area of the airport. Now, ini does make some adverts that they put a lot of emphasis in the detail over here. So why don't we about walk the way that we would normally go towards our hotels for where we'd go to the sim training areas. Now, nice little detail over here. You walk all the way over here, and then you can kind of choose between either taking the elevator down here, or if it's good weather, yes, indeed, there can be sunshine in the UK. I know it's hard to believe. You can take the steps over here and get down over here. Now, ini does make a lot of adverts on their product page that they do cover the landside parts of the airport, so I'll give you a little bit of detail as to what this looks like in real life. Because normally there wouldn't be those trees on the left there. You got the railway station of Stansted right over here, which is done in some very good detail. Let's have a very quick look into this, because they did an excellent job over here, modeling all that. So this is where you'd kind of come along, and then this is where you'd end up in the terminal. So that is really well done. So that is really what things look like. Now, let's have a very quick look over here, because this is where you get to the bus station. And here we are at the bus station. Now, this could be more detailed. There would be buildings all along over here. You can see where the buses go in, and there would be buildings all along underneath those glass roofs over here. But anyway, yeah, over here we got some more detail. That looks a lot better. So that is where all those cabin crew come to work. Okay, so let's go forward and back to the way to the hotel where we kinda ended up. Yeah, let's take the shortcut on the way to the terminal. Hello there. And hello here as well. Okay, so that's the train station. Oops, hello there. And then we can go on forward landside. Now, you haven't seen me hopping over the rails over here. So, this is kind of where we go along. We've got the police station over here, and this isn't just the police station. This is actually a lot of office buildings as well. But from here onwards, there's probably the most important thing, and that is the Hampton by Hilton Hotel. And I really like how they modeled this one, because this is where I stayed a lot during my sim trainings. Okay. Well, looks like they need to do a tiny bit more work there on that hotel. But overall, this is pretty much what it looks like. And from the rooms over here, facing towards the apron, you actually got a really nice view onto the primarily used by Jet 2 and EasyJet aprons that you have over here. Lauda is also using those. Anyway, you can then go downstairs over here, and you should have got a sidewalk on the side over here, and you can walk along, check out the air traffic control tower by the National Air Traffic Services. And then it takes you all the way along those roads. Normally you'd have a sidewalk over here, and you can make your way all the way around. Now this is no longer part of the ini scenery, I believe. This is the... Actually, this might be part of the ini scenery, because those buildings certainly look enhanced. I do believe this is custom. Most certainly all the cars parking over here. Yeah, this is certainly custom by iniBuilds. So, some modeling done on the Landside as well here. Very nice. You got all the lovely ways over here. Then you end up going to the right. And now we're on the way towards Hangar 10, which is the Ryanair hangar. And in that hangar, Ryanair is not only doing maintenance, but they also have their STANSTED simulator training center in this area as well. No, this is not it yet, I believe. A little bit too many trees here for my taste. This should be a little nicer, but yeah, over there is where we need to go. So there should be a bus stop right over here. You can kind of see it in the satellite textures down there. And then we can go over here towards the Hangar 10, which is where you have the largest Ryanair training center. Okay. Entrance right over here, and unfortunately from here on, I guess it would be asked a little bit too much to look at those buildings. But what we can look at is right over here, what it looks like airside. So we've got the Ryanair hangar over here. They are working on those aircraft. Echo India Fox Zulu Kilo, and would be nice if they had separate registrations. But anyway, one static parked over here, and often you would also see a Learjet over here that Ryanair uses to fly their maintenance stuff around the network in case some aircraft go attack somewhere. This one is also an interesting spot. So if you go right over here, the Diamond hangar, it says Diamond here, but what is that? Okay, hello there, not sure if you are supposed to be here. Because over here, they typically have a lot of VIP aircraft, including VIP Boeing 747s. So that's always a really interesting area to taxi past. From here onwards, we're now on the way towards the All-in Point runway 04. Normally over here on that little turn pit, you would find some barriers that nobody can accidentally taxi onto this. Because this is where the Juliet taxiway ends, and then you go over to the right. And you've got intersection Lima 1 straight at, which is where you would normally depart from if there is no holding queue. However, we all know Stansted, there's always going to be a queue, so you might just as well go over here. Now this looks a little bit interesting. I do not remember from the top of my head if the center line of that taxiway actually was displaced this much to the right, so normally center lines are center lines, not right lines. In any case, this is what the holding point for runway 04 looks like. Now, I know there is going to be some commentary on the runway markings over here. And indeed, if you look at the markings, you will see that they are kind of displaced a little bit to the right-hand side, especially when you look up here. Those don't seem to be centered. And indeed, they seem to be a little bit too big. However, my main point that I want to make over here is that a lot of you will say that in Stansted they would be using different markings. And indeed they did until a very short time ago. So remember how the product page said that this is actually featuring the current up-to-date ground markings? Well, if they make these a little bit smaller, then it would actually be correct. They replaced those 3-point markings that they had previously, just recently, with those standard ICAO markings. Going on to the northern side then of Stansted Airport, we got mostly the executive aviation part. So over here you would find loads of Boeing business jets, Airbus corporate jetliners, but also a lot of smaller business jets. So this is where they would be parking. And well, it's a little bit funny that we got the Ryanair static aircraft up here. During COVID they had a lot of aircraft parked over here, but not normally. So I don't know, probably they just used their... Probably they just used some out-of-date information there to model that. Talking about modeling, did you notice the Boeing Dreamliner livery over here? Echo India Delta Lima Charlie? That's really nice to spot this one here. Nice little gimmick. And also we got some of the special stickers standing over here. That's really nice detail they put into this. Okay then, well, as you can see, even on the parts of the airport which are normally not seen that much, they put quite a bit of detail in here, and I do have to say this looks really grand. Now, it would be nice if they also did that, put some static aircraft close to the terminals, especially the part of the terminal which isn't directly connected to the passenger gates, so that should be the 70s and 80s for the parkings, I do believe. But in any case, you can see where the level of detail is over here. Now, we have to be fair enough that there could be some enhancements done as well. I want to give you a little comparison between the real-life Stansted Airport and the iniBuilds Stansted Airport. So for that, let's hop right back over to the passenger gate and I'll show you something. Here we are, right on a 62 right, and I actually want to show you 63 left. So let's quickly head over and have a look into a photo I took recently on site. So we are straight back on stand 62 right, and this is a recent photo I took on site at the real airport. So what can we see over here that we can use for comparison? Well, we can start with the windows themselves, and as you can see, on the photo, they actually go all the way to the top, while over here we've got these structures and the ventilation exits over there. Also notice how there is a lot of signage located straight on the VDGS that is unfortunately missing in scenery. And the final thing I want you to take away from this little comparison over here is how the structure on the passenger entrance over here is a little bit different on the real one versus the iniBuilds one. Also, there should be a sign hanging over here telling the passengers where to go, because this is actually the passenger entry. Now, normally they also have a lot of gateways there for the passengers so that they are guided into the right direction. Unfortunately, that is not visible on this little picture. But that's just a little comparison. You can see how things like that little arrow that you have on the road down there is accurately placed. If you look up into the terminal, you can also see that things are quite accurate, and the beginning of that little glass front in the terminal there is correct as well. Some details could still use a little bit of updating. I surely hope that ini is going to do that. Now, that is going to be the conclusion of this video. I would like to thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. Do let me know if you like this kind of in-depth videos like I did just now on London Stansted. I'm looking forward to hear your feedback. Thank you very much for watching, and I see you again on the next one. In the meantime, thanks for watching, enjoy flying the Stansted, and I will have some dedicated videos on Stansted operations coming up very soon, giving you all the detail you need to know in order to fly to your favorite low-cost London airport.